I'm Jasmine Bibb, and this is To the Woman It May Concern, the podcast, a show where real women talk about real life, one letter at a time. High-performing women navigating identity, purpose, and becoming deserve a safe space. One without the pressure to have it all figured out. Each episode, we explore the wisdom, the wrestle, and the wonder of becoming the woman you were always meant to be. Because I believe every woman has a letter in her. One that could help someone else feel seen, heard, or simply not alone. So, let's get into it. Okay, so Kourtni, welcome.
Hello, hello.
I'm so happy to have you with us today. Before we get into Kourtni, guys, I want to start with a really special announcement. So as you guys know, this podcast has been a part of my to test list. And so I'm working my way through it, one episode at a time, learning new things, trying to figure it out. And I'm really excited to say that for this episode and episodes moving forward, you can access the podcast on all the channels. So not just Substack, not just YouTube, but Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. So that's pretty exciting. That lets me know I'm moving in the right direction. I'm getting the traction that I'm looking for, and that this item on my to test list is going really well. And so I'm really grateful.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. So I'm super excited about that. But anyway, let's get into what today is about. So today's episode, guys, we have Kourtni Hatton joining us. And I believe that you are in for a treat. I love Kourtni. Met Kourtni a really long time ago as a very young undergrad at Ohio University. And she has been in my life ever since. And she has always given the same powerful presence and just a woman full of wisdom since the very first day I met her. And so I'm really honored to have her here with me today. So thank you again, Kourtni, for joining me.
Thank you. How nice. Well, no, I'm excited to be here. So thank you for the invitation.
You got it. So as you guys know, from a bio standpoint, I love a good bio about the person. Yes, we are all out here doing it from a what we do for a living, our 9 to 5s, our everyday, how we grind, how we pay our bills. But first and foremost, I believe that we are people first. And so I am going to share Kourtni's bio with you guys before we get into today's show. So with that being said, Kourtni, yes, emphasis on the T, Hatton, is a Black woman who is many things. First and foremost, she considers herself to be God's favorite. She is a daughter, a sister, a cousin, a niece, and a friend. But her most beloved role in life is being an aunt. Kourtni lives in Columbus, Ohio, but Cleveland will always be home. A Midwest girl at heart who will never get used to experiencing all 4 seasons in one day. Her Sundays are reserved for time with God, family, and brunch with friends. If you catch her outside, day parties are usually her favorite, so she can get home and be cozy on the couch before the street lights come on. A mix between Aunt Helen, Claire Huxtable, Nova Bordelon, and a little Rihanna by night, Kourtni is a lover of travel, food, and whiskey. By day, she is a change agent working at the intersection of HR and diversity, equity, and inclusion. Kourtni is a leader, a space maker, and a disruptor. As the vice president and chief people and equity officer for a large nonprofit focused on equity and belonging in the workplace, leading through change and coaching. Kourtni is trusted and known to leverage her relationships to help build bridges and gaps between employers and their staff to drive organizational results. Unafraid to challenge norms, Kourtni is dedicated to being an advocate and champion for the voices that often go unheard, especially with and for Black people, and moves through her days with intention and authenticity in every interaction. With each new chapter, she steps forward boldly, ready to welcome change, opposition, and opportunity. As she approaches a new season in life, she is committed to leaning into everything steeped in Black joy by any means necessary. Welcome, Kourtni.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm really happy to have you. So, in true fashion, as to how we start this podcast, I have to know if you had a soundtrack of your life, what would be song number one?
So I really thought about this and it was really hard for a second. And I was like, at first I was like, am I going to ask some friends? Like, what's the song that you think of when you think of me? Then I went to my Apple Music and I was like, well, what's some of my most played? I pulled from that. But as you read in my bio, right now, I'm just steeped in, always have been really, but steeped in um, everything related to Black joy. And so this song, I actually think the name of it is Black, but it's the song that you hear on the reels that goes like black, 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 my skin so black.
Yes.
So I don't know the artist name. I believe it's an ASAP Ferg that's also featured on the song. But when that came to mind, I was like, that's it. Because, we see it on the reels around Juneteenth and, Black History Month and all of that. And I was like, that's what life feels like for me right now. So it would probably be number one on the soundtrack of many songs, but that's the one that came to mind.
All right. I love it. I love it. I believe it. I subscribe to it. I agree with you based
There
on
we
knowing
go.
you. I think that's a good one. Okay. And so, my second question for you: why'd you say yes to me when I asked you to be a guest on this podcast?
This is probably one of the easiest yeses that I could give maybe recently, but because it's you.
Aw.
As you mentioned earlier, we go way back. You share often how you think highly of me, but I think just as highly of you. I remember our conversations a few years ago before you guys moved from Columbus back to Cleveland and how you had this idea to start a podcast. So to
Mm-hmm.
see this full circle moment is a blessing. And I'm just honored that I get to be a part of the journey and to see you really make it happen. So it was an easy yes.
Why, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. It has been a long time coming. The idea has evolved
Mm-hmm.
as to what the podcast would be, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I finally landed on something that makes sense and can be extremely impactful. So it's been a long time coming, agreed.
Absolutely. So,
Okay, so we are here for your letter, Kourtni. And so, whenever
okay.
you are ready, before we get into our conversation, as we always do when we get together, whenever you're ready, the floor is all yours. Tell us what you got for us and share.
All right. So I am actually going to read this letter. It actually comes from, it's a caption of an Instagram post that I posted a few years ago, but it was inspired by a couple of things. It was inspired by a quote that I read, um, but it was also inspired by what I was experiencing in my life at the time. So I'll share the quote first, and then I'll jump into the letter itself. The quote says, "You don't need to know your full life's calling right now. Just ask God, what is my assignment for this season?" And so this quote really resonated with me, and it struck me to just kind of write a few notes and jot some things down. And then it turned into this full caption just because I feel like we're all often in this space of like, what's my assignment? What's my calling? Especially as women. I think there's so much that we always want to accomplish and conquer in a day, let alone a lifetime. And we try to take it all on. And so I was just like, let me just write out how I'm like, how this is resonating with me. So my caption read, I don't know what it is about your 20s and early 30s that make you think you have to have life figured out right now. That at any given moment, you're supposed to have all the right answers to every question. You don't and you can't. But what you can and should do is lean into your purpose for this season, for this moment in your life. Sometimes I think we're so busy trying to figure out our life's purpose that we don't even realize we're already walking in it. And sometimes we think a season is over, but it's not. Sorry, I have to expand it again. Just sit in it a little while longer. Ask God, what's left for me to do? What assignment do I need to finish? I've learned that just like anything else in life, you won't miss your purpose because it's only yours to have. And it will be so clear, you won't second guess or doubt it. You'll just know what to do and get to work. So,
Mm.
brief, but that, like I said, it was inspired by that quote that I read, but it was also inspired by, um, or I reflected on, I should say, at the time. My mother was, no, this was after my mother passed. And I remember when we found out, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And, at this time, we're still in somewhat the height of COVID. So I had a lot more flexibility at work. And as I reflected on that quote, I remembered the feeling that I had of when, like I said, when we found out that she was diagnosed, like, okay, I'm just going to go home. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
go home,
Mm-hmm.
um, be with my mom. She wasn't like deteriorating right at that moment. But I was like, whatever I can do to support and be there for her. Much like this podcast, it was an easy yes. She never asked or anything like that, but I was just like, I know what to do. I have the space to go do it, and I'm going to go do it. And for me, in that moment, it was about. It's funny because I used to say all the time like, "Ugh, I don't hear God. God doesn't talk to
Mm.
me." So on and so forth. Like I don't hear Him. And then God said to me, "Is it that you don't hear me, or are you not listening?" And so I was like, "Correct." So I was like, oh, okay, yes. I heard that one loud and clear.
Right.
And so, like I said, when I reflected on that very brief and quick moment of not even deciding, but just stating and claiming, like, I know what to do. I'm going to go home and be with my mom and whatever. And, much like my siblings as well, like, we all just kind of like, jumped right in. Whatever needed to
Mm.
happen, we were going to make sure we could show up in the best way that we could, with the capacity that we had. But it was never like a second guessing, and never a like, oh, how am I going to figure this out? Or, what am I going to do? But it was just so clear to me what I was supposed to do in that moment that, like I said in that caption, I never had to second guess it. I never had to question what God was saying. It was just get up and move and go to work. This is your assignment for this season. Um, and so lean into that. And so I often just kind of reflect on that caption, that moment, and that feeling ever since of just like, if I am questioning something, like one, I know where the source is. So I know
Mm.
where I need to go to get the clarity for it. Like, is this a matter of me hearing and not listening? Or
Yeah.
do I just need more clarity? So on and so forth. So, I just think we, like I said, just often spend time of like feeling like we have to conquer it all. Um, and I'm a firm believer in that we can have it all and we can do
Mm-hmm.
everything, but we can't do it all at the same time. And I'll just share one last anecdote. I remember while my mother was sick and in the hospital, and my siblings and I were like rotating, like caring for her and visiting her in the hospital. And I was doing something. I was either trying to like straighten her up in the chair or, put the blankets on, trying to order food at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and during this season, this was probably the most unfiltered my mother had been.
like,
Okay.
I'm gonna
And
do
she
what
can
I
have it,
want.
right? Like you can say and do whatever you want. But while I was trying to do all of these things, I was saying something to her, probably talking and thinking out loud, and she was like, Courtney, you can't do everything. And I was like, oh, I've never heard. I mean, she's fussed at me before, but like
That was
the
different.
sternness, the unfiltered, I was just like, all right, you're right. I can't, and I'll stop trying to do it all. So between that and just between that moment and the moment of discernment of just knowing when to lean in your purpose or knowing when to recognize your purpose in the season that you're in, I think it all just kind of culminated into that caption and reflecting on that quote of just like, this is a season, right? Most things are temporary. You will figure out how to navigate it, but you just kind of have to pause and allow yourself to slow down for a moment to really say, like, what's my assignment right now? Why am I here right now? What is this moment right now? And not try to get so far ahead. Try not to get a week ahead, 5 years ahead, 20 years ahead. Like, be in this moment, be present in this moment, and figure out and do what you can right now and in this season. So that's my letter. That's my story.
That's tough. I think what you said, your letter, it resonates so much. Like when we think about in your 20s and in your 30s, or even if you think about just if you in your early 30s, mid
Mm-hmm.
30s, you're like, okay, by the time I reach this age, I will have accomplished this, that,
Mm-hmm.
all you got this list of accomplishments that you've written out for yourself before you even really get a dose of life. And so then once life happens and you kind of reflect, you're like, but dag, I was supposed to have done all these things, had all these things, been all these places. But to your point, it's kind of the piece where they say, we plan and God laughs, right?
Correct.
Because he's always cracking up because we're
Right.
quick to say what we will have done. And I think I'm learning the older I get, what I thought I knew about myself,
Mm.
no. Who I thought I was, no. Like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like now I'm just starting to get the things I thought I would be on the tail end of when I think about myself. And so,
Mm.
my question for you, when you think about where you first saw the quote, when you think about the letter that you mentioned, and you said, I knew that I needed to drop everything and go home. Reflecting on it now, and maybe you knew then, although you knew your purpose was to be close to your family, whenever we find ourselves in situations, there's a lesson. There's something we're supposed to learn, something we're supposed to take away from that moment. And so, in that experience, based on the letter that you wrote today, what was the lesson?
Ooh, I think I think some of the biggest lessons, and for me, this has been my life lesson, and I learned to stop praying about it, was patience.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, it sounds a little cliche, but I know that I am a recovering impatient person, right? And not in the sense of like instant gratification, right? But in the sense of like, God, I just want to know which direction I should be going in. Like, if you could just give me a little glimpse um, of the future, or give me a little glimpse of, um, what I might experience. Like, just give me something, because I'm the type of
Hmm.
person, like, I like to have all the information
Hmm.
so I can make the right decisions and do so on and so forth. And so I think that general lesson in patience, but also the lesson in living in your purpose for that moment, because there are going to be many things that you learn in that season. Like, I was essentially back at home living with my mother. So living with someone again is different. Caring for someone in that way is different. It's not something that I had ever experienced before, right? And so there were several moments throughout that journey that I reflected on in hindsight where I was just like, oh, when I whenever I get married, what if my spouse, if their parents are still with them, like what if they lose their parent, or
Mm,
what if they have to care for their parent? What is I now have that lesson and unfortunate experience, right? But like I can take that with me into another space. And so I think just that reflection of like there's something I'm supposed to get out of this season. And that's why I mentioned the patience of like
mhm,
just sit with it. There's something
mm.
that you're supposed to be learning and taking away from this. I often say that God often gives us the test before he gives us the testimony. And not every test has to be this like burden driven or just, but it's the lesson. You get the lesson before the testimony. You can't testify without having that experience. And so I think it was just one of those lessons of just like sit in this, whatever this is.
Mhm.
It's okay to sit in it and feel it and experience it because God's preparing you for something else that's coming, right? You now have the tools in your tool belt to navigate this in another space or to comfort someone else who is going to or has experienced this now. You've been there and you can offer that compassion and that empathy to them because you've been there as well. So just the lesson of just sit in it and just sit in that purpose because it's gonna bring you something.
Yeah. Yeah. They say what there is no, you can't spell testify or testimony without test, and you can't spell
Mm-hmm.
message without mess.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, so it is so true. It does not feel good. It can be extremely uncomfortable. But when
Yeah.
you can get to the other side of that moment to be able to
Yeah.
fully spell out the word, it really is a beautiful thing. And I'm sure you can say the same. I thank God every single time for that test and that mess.
Yes. All of it. Because it turned into something beautiful. Like to
Hmm.
your point around like who I thought I was or who I was 5 years ago or who I was 20 years ago,
Hmm.
I think when we met, like, I'm not that person. I'm not entirely that person that I am today, but because of those things. So it feels messy in the moment, but like, man, what a blessing to feel equipped and to feel strengthened because of those things that you experienced. And like, I know how to navigate this now, and I don't have to experience it in the same way that I experienced it before because God already prepared me for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very true. I agree. So when we think about your letter and what you decided to write about, why that topic? When you think about all your experiences, all the lessons that you've learned, all the things that may go through your mind on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, why that letter? And what woman is it for?
Yeah, I appreciate that question because, when we were preparing for this call, I shared with you that I have this notes in my phone where I just jot down reflections. And so originally I know I was going to share with you maybe three or four, like,
Hmm.
let me see what resonates the most. And there were several where I felt like would be appropriate. There was one about like body image, so to speak, and
Hmm.
like the evolution of women and their bodies and how we just interpret that and
Hmm.
transition and evolve, right? Um, there were others about love, so on and so forth. But this one felt timely. One, I listened to your second episode with your guest. I cannot remember her name.
Dr.
Um,
Octavia Reed. Hmm.
yes. And it almost felt like a good continuation of sorts of the
Hmm.
conversation, right? And then I also think about your platforms around to the woman it may concern and the overachiever mom. And it also felt timely in that sense because of like, we are always, as women, we are always trying to tackle everything.
Hmm.
Um, and then lately, I've been in this reflective space of like, owning that I'm the strong friend, and I realize that folks probably also view me that way, right?
I can see that.
like like accurate. Okay. And so it was just like, I think it was a message too, like I said, in alignment with your platform around like, no, we all have these moments. We all have
Mm-hmm.
these moments of like, sometimes we doubt, but we can pull ourselves out of it, right? How do we lean into our tribe with, helping ourselves or helping, myself or others come out of that space? So it just felt really timely. It felt timely and appropriate in alignment with, like I said, your platform, but just something that I think as women and especially as Black women, we are seen as the go to, the problem solvers, the figure it outers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's all well and good, but you got to have that pause. You got to have that pause to reflect. Like, is this my purpose? What am I supposed to do in this season? What is my assignment? So on and so forth. So it felt timely because we have a long history as Black women of trying to carry it all.
Agree. You think I forget, I was reading something the other day, and the person basically decided to lean into the thought of check on your strong friends and for
Mm.
all the reasons why you should check on your
Mhm.
strong friend. Yes, your friend might have it. Yes, you know that they can handle it all, can handle anything. But because of that, when you think about what it takes to be that person, that's why
Mhm.
you should absolutely
Mhm.
check on your strong friend. Like they're always checking on everybody else and making sure everybody else is good. And that's fine. Maybe they have more capacity to carry that than someone else does. But still,
Mhm.
that's even more of a reason why they should be like top of your list of people to like make sure are
Absolutely.
good so that they stay good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I think we all have seasons of being the strong friend, right? And so it's about like, how do we balance that? If you recognize that, okay, lately I've really been hitting Jasmine with some questions because I've been going through this season, I've been asking
mhm.
for feedback, so on and so forth. Like, take a moment to pause and be like, if I'm asking Jazz these questions, it's probably five other people outside of work that are,
Yeah, like that kind of
seeking
stuff
her for
multiplies.
advice, right? So how can I pour into her, even if it's just I have a friend, I call her my iron sister, but she's really good about just randomly sending just a heart or praying emoji hands. And so it
Mm,
just doesn't have to be much, but just I'm thinking of you. I hope you're good. you know,
I like that.
it says like, if you need something, I'm here type of
Hmm.
thing. So,
And that doesn't require much.
and it doesn't require much.
Very cool. I like that. I think I might adopt that and just
Yeah.
don't, you don't have to, kind of like when you say happy birthday to somebody, like you say happy birthday, but you're like, but it's been a while. I haven't talked to them. So I should probably say, like, how are you doing? How's life? When sometimes
Right.
they probably just want you to say happy birthday and keep
Keep
it
it
pushing.
moving. Right. Like, I'm getting 30 other messages.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So when we think about purpose and seasons, what's Courtney's current purpose based on the season that you're in? What do you believe that is?
Oh, that is a hard question. I appreciate the natural and organic flow of these questions because I need the listeners to know that these are not prepared questions, but also these are much like what we would do when we talk and catch up. So
Exactly.
that was my brief moment of trying to stall. My purpose for this season. I think I have a couple of things. I mentioned in my bio that I love being an auntie. As
Mm-hmm.
someone who doesn't want children in the traditional sense, I thoroughly enjoy the season that I'm in of being an auntie. I have a 26-year-old nephew
Mm-hmm.
and a 4 month old nephew,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a wide range of age there. And so I think that's part of my purpose right now is leaning into that space. Um, And right now, this season feels like a sowing season
Mm.
for whatever may be next. Um, I think I've shared with you before about this idea of having to retire at 65, 70 plus. And there's just no way, I won't curse on here, but there's just no way that that's going to be my life.
Listen.
And for maybe almost 10 years now,
Hmm.
no, that's a stretch, maybe five. Maybe 5 to 7 years, I've been saying my life is going to look different by 45. I'm not big into astrology. What's that hand wave?
That's an amen.
Oh, okay.
I'm working on like 65 is not an option.
It's
I need
not.
some changes to happen
It's not.
sooner rather than later.
I feel like I do plenty of living right now, but I'm not going to wait to do more living at 65, right? Like, it's just not going to happen.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, I just know that life is going to look very different for me. Like I was saying, I'm not big into astrology, but one thing that I know about Sagittarius is we need that freedom and liberation,
Mm.
right? And so my spirit is just kind of nudging and preparing for what then do I want life to look like that aligns with what feels right for my spirit, for my being, while still creating impact, while still impacting the community, while still coaching and developing others. It just won't work won't look like this. And so, like I said, that's why I feel like this is the sowing season. I'm trying to back into whatever life is going to be at 45. And that's not to be restrictive,
Mhm.
45 ish. That doesn't mean at 45 I'm quitting my job, or at 45 I have to be married by then, or, whatever. But the shift will definitely start to happen. So I'm trying to sow those seeds now while listening to God, actually listening and not just hearing.
Cause that part, I think so often back to the whole what we think life should be, what should be happening. But I think the difference when you kind of have this kind of conversation like we're having based on where we are in life and age now in comparison to when you're in your 20s and when you're in your 30s is that your spiritual relationship with God is in a different place. He's taking you through some tests and he's taking you through
Mhm.
some mess, and you've learned to trust him more and have faith and talk to him and carve out space for him and really treat him like the person he designed us to treat him as when we think about
Mhm.
being in relation to him. And
Mhm.
so I think that when we are able to do that at an older, wiser age, it's easier to say, oh, no, 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 no. I'm not quite exactly sure like the details of what that looks like, but I know my God. And I know
Right.
that what he has for me is not this right
This is
now.
not good. But like you said too, it's about knowing who you are too. Like, and that's not to take anything away from God, but the reality is, like, you know yourself better. You set
Hmm.
better, and sometimes I don't even think it's about knowing yourself better, but you're better equipped to set boundaries,
Mm.
understand what alignment needs to look like,
Hmm.
to say, to use your no more effectively. My sister says all the time, let your yeses be yeses and your nos be nos, right?
Yeah.
And so it's even some of that of just like, that's not for me.
Yep. Yep.
I'm very resolved in that,
I'm
right?
good with that. I'm going to move on. I'm going to figure out what's next, but
Yes,
this ain't it.
this ain't it.
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
wholeheartedly. Oh my God. Okay. So life will look different for you in the coming years when you think
Mhm.
about life, career, interests, and things like that. So, based on the experiences that you've had thus far and the lessons that you've learned, what's something that you can say if I don't know anything else about 45? I know based on the lessons I've learned or the conversations I have got, I know at least this much.
Based on my lessons learned, by 45, this much I know will be happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, huh. I'm chuckling because I want to be really bold and say
Ooh.
something and kind
Hey,
of like
it's your
claim
show.
something, um, which is a whole different thing because I probably need to talk with my therapist about that. But I will have a healthy and successful love life. And I also will not be working for someone in that
Mm,
new season.
I love both of those.
And that is not a boast to entrepreneurship
Hmm.
because, as you know, I've had a business before. That
Yes.
is not for the faint of heart. So
Hmm.
there's not this idea for me. It's not about, oh, I can't work for anybody. Like that's not my thing. No, the 9 to 5 pays me well and will set me up for the future. Okay, I need all of those things. Okay, and the
Yeah.
benefits that come with it. But it's more so what I was speaking about earlier about um, the freedom.
Mm,
And when I say freedom, again, I as a former business owner, I recognize what that looks like. That does not mean I'm just my feet are kicked up and I'm not doing anything. No, it takes a hustle and a grind. But I get to move at a different pace that aligns with me and my spirit, but allows me to be at a level of peace that I feel like I was intended to live and create. Like the pace of my life right now is not
hmm
ideal for me. It just does not align with my being, and so
mm,
that's what I mean by like that freedom and likely not working for someone in that way.
yeah.
It's like to my point earlier, I know myself and I'm very resolved in who I am, my personality, my style, right? And I need that level of flexibility and freedom to make the impact that I think God created me to make.
Yeah. I think that that's beautiful. I think that to feel that and know that, I don't know, it makes you smile, right? Because you
Hmm.
know that that's what's coming.
It
And I
makes you
think
nervous, but it does make me
it
smile.
does make you nervous, but it makes you smile because you know God's promises and you
Hmm.
know that, you said it in your bio, you're one of God's favorites. And so because of that, he's going to hold you, he's going to take care of you. Um, and I believe it. You as the person, like you said, you've been a business owner before. I think you do great work in the work that you do today, but I could so see you having it all, but having it all in the way that you see fit based on making your own rules and your
Yeah,
own terms.
yeah, yep, on my terms.
Yep. Okay. So, of the letter that you wrote, is there anything in the letter that you went back and forth about whether or not you should include that line, that sentence, that
Mm.
blurb, any of that?
I don't think there was anything that I said I shouldn't include or that I went back and forth about. I'm kind of looking at it again.
Okay.
Um, it was more so like what's missing
Hmm.
because part of it was therapeutic for me, but the other part was if I'm going to take the time to post this for others to see, is there something else I should be saying in this?
Hmm.
Um, and that took some listening as well, like, God, what else am I supposed to share in this moment? I really did not expect or intend for this conversation to be so faith heavy, but I think because of just
Yeah.
the letter itself, it naturally went there. But yeah, I don't it wasn't anything about like, ooh, that's too much. um because I think when I finished writing it was when I really reflected on that, like, oh, this was this relates to something recent that I was experiencing in reference to my mother. So it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't entirely inspired by that. But yeah, it was just more so about what's missing. Is there anything else I need to add versus take away? Because, I think you know me well enough. I'm pretty much an open book. So if you ask, I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna tell you. Um, so nothing that in that moment that I felt like I needed to shy away from.
Okay. All right. So, with that being said, if there is Nothing else from the letter that the listeners remember or take away, hold close, and use for that woman that this letter does concern. What's that item that you're, nothing else? You gotta take away this, remember this, and hold this close.
I think it is the line of I often think we're so busy trying to figure out what our life's purpose is that we don't realize we're already walking in it. So if you don't take anything else away, it's that like I think we can get so busy trying to chase the next thing, like what we think our purpose is, and don't often take a moment to go, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And if so, let me really blow this thing up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I do.
So I think that's probably my key takeaway. It's something that always stands out to me. I read it every so often, but it's something that always stands out to me of like we get so busy trying to figure out what our purpose is and don't even realize we're walking in it. Because at the end of the day, we cannot miss our purpose. There's no
Mm-mm.
way we can miss it. Like it's only yours to have.
It's only yours to have. That back to what you were just talking about something that makes you nervous, but like something that like excites you. Like there is this piece where everybody has a calling or a gift
Yes.
that they
A
have.
gift, yeah.
And the nervous piece, though, sometimes is when will you pick up on the line that you made? Like when will you recognize
Mm,
that you're in that moment? And in some instances, I don't think you ever technically recognize something like that too late per se.
correct.
But I think sometimes we can feel like that, like, dag, if I just would have known that this was my purpose 10 years ago, I'd be a millionaire, or I would have, cured world hunger. I don't know
Right.
anything, but you feel like, oh my God, what am I missing? Did I miss it? Is it too late? And to that point, I think that is such a great takeaway, even if it's a matter of, I think that's why I'm loving the thought of writing and journaling so much these
Hmm.
days, is because there's so much space that you can hold. There's so much you can
Yes.
write in a letter or in a
Yes.
journal that you wouldn't necessarily say out loud, that really gives you pause.
And it makes you, like you said, it gives you pause. It's the power of the pause.
It's the power of the pause. And every single time, I think when we create the space, to your point of like these lives that we live and we're moving so fast, and in the pause and in the break and in the silence,
Hmm.
that's where it comes from. Eerily, to your point of, you said, I can't, I wasn't hearing God. I didn't hear him. And he was like, I'm talking to you, but are you listening to me? Like it really sometimes drops on your soul like
Yes.
that heavy.
Yes. When you create the space for that, I had a friend say to me because in recent years, as I've grown in my leadership in the organization, in recent years, I just felt like I don't want to say. I used to tell folks I sleep good at night because when my
Mhm.
head hits the pillow, I'm good. I'm out. But with increased leadership, increased responsibility, so I'm like, oh, I just feel like I get these thoughts in the middle of the night or these ideas, so on and so forth. And I was saying to a friend of mine, like, I feel like that's when. What did I say? Something about like, maybe that's like I don't see it as anxious or anything. Like that's just God talking to me. But I'm like, why you gotta talk to me at 2 o'clock in the morning? Like, why? And she was like, he's probably like because that's the only time you listen. And I
Ooh,
was like,
ooh.
okay, nobody told you had to gather
Why we
me
have to get so serious?
like that, right? But to your point around like when you really get quiet and you create the space to get quiet, undistracted, I don't care if it's 30 minutes, I don't care if it's 3 days. Like the clarity that you will get from that, baby, it changes. It changes so much.
It does. I forget what I was reading, but to that point of like those early mornings or just those moments of silence, someone said, or I read somewhere that like oftentimes when you think you're just like waking up out of nowhere, like not if somebody in
Right.
your house is going to the restroom or needs a drink of water, but just genuinely, you just all of a sudden wake up. That's God trying to talk to you.
That's God trying to talk to you.
And
Hmm.
so I try to be, when it happens, I try to be mindful of it. I think I was at one season in my life, Kourtni, where I needed to hear from him so bad that
Mm.
I did wake up at like 3 o'clock one morning and I literally got out the bed and sat on the floor. Like I
Like, I'm
didn't know
fully
what
asleep.
else to
I'm
do.
here.
Talk to me, speak to me. I'm here. I'm awake. You
Hmm.
got my attention. And
Hmm.
did he really talk to me? I don't know. I think I might have fell asleep on the floor, but
But you were up. You were trying to create the space. I
I
can
was trying to
imagine what season that was, but
I was trying to create the space. So
yes.
I love that as a takeaway. So you mentioned leadership, and it made me think of like when you think about the letter and the advice you shared, or just the wisdom of life and living. And when you think about your team, rather it be
Mm.
individuals your age, older, younger, however, how do you lead? Do you infuse any of like that life wisdom into your leadership style with the people that work with you and for you?
That's so funny. I would say it depends on the space and it depends on the person. um, I believe that like you have to manage folks how they want and need to be managed. It is not a one size fits all,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I do have some folks who, excuse me, who might need a little bit more coaching and a little bit more guidance. And I try to instill in them or empower them, I should say, around like, look, you were hired for a reason. So I
Mm,
trust you to do what we hired you to do. I don't, I'm not a micromanaging type. And so I try to give that coaching and that guidance and that mentorship um, as much as possible. But also, I'm more inclined to do it when I see that that's what someone wants and
mm,
needs out of that rapport relationship. And I say that because not every manager is meant to be a mentor, right? Like,
okay.
that's just like what I say about friends. Your friends, every single friend can't be everything to you.
Yeah.
And so, for one direct report, I may be just a manager,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're
Mm-hmm.
just trying to check through the list. They're trying to get their work done and keep it moving. For others, they might need a little bit more reassurance, but that they get their mentorship and their guidance someplace else. And that's okay too. I oversee, I should say, I have oversight of
Mm-hmm.
a leadership development program. So in that space, I am dropping a lot more wisdom and guidance because it's about development,
Yeah.
right? And that's what the space is created and intended for. So not only because it's my job, but because it's who I am to be able to say, you might have some blinders on right here.
Yeah.
Let me help you see a different perspective because they've
Mm.
already come to the table saying, I'm
Open.
ready and willing and I want to be developed because this is what I want to do and I can help you get there type of
Yeah.
thing. So it can just be different depending on, the dynamics.
Yeah. I agree. I think that you make a very good call out. There are some people who just come to work. I don't want to mentor them and they don't want to be mentored by me. And then there are some where you come into my office and it turns into a therapy or a life coaching session.
Right.
It just depends. No, oh, I'm so
Right.
sorry to burden you. No, no, this is my favorite part of
Right.
my
This
job.
is my jam.
This is what
Yes.
I love doing. Forget the
Yes.
strategy. I want to let's talk.
Yes. That I can do.
But I think that's the beauty of life and how God sets us up and teaches us things is truly
Hmm.
because we are supposed to take our experiences and share them with others and prep
Yes.
them and give them watch outs and help them work through things that um we've been through. I think there's this piece where we have to master things for ourselves when we think about our 20s, our 30s, our
Hmm.
careers and things like that. But there's also this piece where there's like this helpmate that comes along that is okay, You mastered this. You know how to handle this if you see it again. Now you need to give somebody some tips, some tools and tricks on how they're supposed to or how they can lean in to do the same.
Yeah. You are making me think of, and I'm hoping that I can find it before we get off. I had a friend, and I think I just did, but I had a friend who sent me a message on Instagram, and it was a Toni Morrison post. And they were like, "This is the energy you remind me of." And at first I was like, "Huh?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, "Oh, what an honor." And so I was just like swiping through some of her quotes. And to your point,
Mm-hmm.
one that I just always gravitate to is this one where she says, "If you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else."
Mm. Mm.
And without, like, I've heard it before, heard it plenty of times, right? Reflected on it even before, but I just kind of recognize, like, that is how I move. Like,
That is how you
if
move.
I'm free, if I've gotten to this point, I believe you can do this too. Like, and I want to be able to support you and put you around the people and the places that will allow you to get to this point as well too. And
Mm.
so I feel like that is a part of my purpose. That's a part of my calling to say, if I'm free, I got to free somebody else too.
Agreed.
So
I love that. And that is very much how you move. So I love that. Okay. So my last question for you. If there was a PS to this letter, what would it be?
if there was a PS to this letter, what would it be? Ooh, I think I'll go back to um, what I said earlier about one of my lessons
Mm-hmm.
and reflections in the letter is be patient. Nothing too, nothing too complicated, but
Yeah.
be patient. It's easier said than done. Um, because I also recognize that where I am and how resolved I feel now,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody is there. And it took work for me to get here. And it took work for me to um, out. This might be a story for another day, but to come back to that, right? Like, I know who I am and I'm very resolved in that. And so that's what enabled me to like have the reflections that I had and shared in the letter. But it's not an overnight thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when you get quiet, when you listen, and when you're patient, you will start to see a shift. You will get clear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's just like having a clean room, right? When you're operating, or a messy kitchen, right? And you're like,
True.
I'm going to cook, but I've already got dishes in the sink.
Mm.
These things aren't, this wasn't put away from earlier, so on and so forth. It's hard to operate in that chaos without cleaning some other things up first. And so you
Mm.
have to get really patient with yourself and, just sit down and take some time to clean up a little bit
I like that.
and then
I
get to
like that
work.
a
So,
lot. Ooh, that's a good PS. Patience is so, 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 so hard.
hmm
Um, but it's so beneficial when we can figure out a way to exercise patience.
yeah. So,
All right. Well, Kourtni, thank you for joining me.
oh, thank you for having me.
This has been a really great conversation, per usual. I'm not surprised. This is the way our conversations go in real
hmm
life, guys,
hmm
which is why this was so effortless and why this time has flown by
Right?
for this podcast recording. And so I would just encourage you guys to reflect on Kourtni's letter and what she has shared, as it is so applicable to everyday life. Take a moment to write a letter to yourself. If you're feeling bold, send an email to me at hello@theoamcollective.com and raise your hand and say you want to share your letter on air, and I'll make an
Mm.
outreach for you to join me for your episode and your letter. Again, as I announced at the very beginning, super excited that now you can access this podcast on all the podcast channels that are available: Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, you name it, in addition to Substack per usual. And then follow me at the Overachiever Mom on Instagram. So until the next time, thanks again, Kourtni. I so appreciate you, friend.
Thank you. Appreciate you too.
Bye bye.
Bye.